We all chase happiness, right? It's that feeling we get when things are going our way, when we get that promotion or just have a really good day. But what if there's something deeper, something that doesn't just vanish when life gets tough? Well, today we're diving into a theological idea that draws a really sharp line between that everyday happiness and a much more profound state it calls joy. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to unpack the huge difference between joy and happiness. Then we'll look at where this joy actually comes from. After that, we'll tackle the big paradox. How can joy exist alongside suffering? Then we'll redefine joy as more of a confidence than a feeling. And finally, we'll see what this kind of confidence actually produces in a person's life. All right, let's get right to the heart of it. This is probably the most fundamental idea we're going to talk about. Within this way of thinking, joy and happiness, they're not even in the same league. They are presented as two totally different concepts. Okay, this chart just lays it out so clearly. On the one hand, you've got happiness. It's totally dependent on your circumstances, the happenings in your life. It's an emotion, and since life is always up and down, it's fleeting, it comes and goes. But joy is defined as something completely different. It's God-centered. That means it's not a passing emotion, but an abiding virtue. It's something that's supposed to stick around no matter what's happening on the outside. So if this joy isn't coming from a great day at the office or a sunny vacation, where in the world does it come from? Well, the source material points to one place, and one place only, a divine origin. Yeah, see, this isn't something you can just work up on your own. It's described as coming from three places. First, it's the supernatural gift, what's called a fruit of the Spirit. Second, it's actually rooted in the joy of Christ himself. And third, it's something that flows from the constant presence of God. And this quote, wow, it just nails that second point. The idea here isn't just to feel a little bit of joy. It's a direct sharing of Christ's own joy with his followers so that their joy could be full, complete, and anchored in something way bigger than themselves. And this verse from the Psalms, it really drives home that third source we were just talking about. Think about it. If God's presence is constant, if it's unchanging, then the joy that comes from it can also be constant. It doesn't have to rise and fall with the crazy tides of everyday life like happiness does. Okay, now we're getting to what is, for sure, the most challenging part of this whole idea. It's a huge paradox, really. The concept that this deep, profound joy can actually exist right alongside suffering, and sometimes it can even be strengthened by it. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It just feels completely wrong. How can a person have genuine joy when they're going through hardship, or loss, or serious pain? Well, the answer goes right back to the foundation we've been building. So, here's the absolute key. It's all about what you're building on. If your sense of well-being is based on the unchangeable reality of who God is, then it can't be threatened when the changeable things in your life start to fall apart. It's a massive shift in where you anchor your hope. Right, so it is so important to get this joy. In this sense, isn't just being a happy-go-lucky person who never feels bad. It's this deep, complex state that doesn't cancel out other emotions. The idea is you can feel sadness about a loss, you can feel sorrow for your mistakes, but at the same time, you can be holding on to this deeper, overriding spiritual reality. Okay, so let's try to pull all these threads together now and look at the actual definition that this theological view gives us. It basically takes the idea of joy, pulls it out of the category of emotion, and puts it somewhere else entirely. So here it is, and just look at the words they use: virtue, conviction, quiet confidence. See, this totally reframes joy. It's not something you feel for a little while, but a settled state of being that you hold, and it's based on a deep conviction about who is ultimately in control of everything. And here's how it all connects. The argument is that you don't actually chase joy directly. Instead, joy is the natural, inevitable result, the fruit, that grows when you have a deep assurance in your faith and your salvation. So that's the theory, but what does it actually do? I mean, what does this look like in real life? If this joy is a consequence of having assurance, then what are the consequences of the joy itself? Let's check out the practical results. I find this progression, which comes from the Westminster Confession, absolutely fascinating. It lays it all out like a chain reaction. It all starts with being diligent in your faith. That hard work leads to assurance. That assurance then causes your heart to be, as it says, enlarged in joy. And then, finally, That joy is what gives you the strength and even the good cheer to live a life of obedience. And this quote just drives the point home. Joy isn't the final destination. It's the fuel for the journey. It's what gives you the strength and cheerfulness to do the right thing, not because you have to, but because you're operating from this deep, settled place of confidence. Okay, let's just boil this all down one more time. First, and this is the big one, this theological joy is totally different from happiness. Second, it's not a natural feeling you can just create, it's described as a supernatural gift. Third, and this is so important, it can survive through hardship because it's not based on your circumstances. And finally, at its core, it's not really a feeling at all. It's a deep confidence that comes from spiritual assurance. So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. If this view is right, if joy isn't something you go out and find by chasing good feelings, but instead it's something that grows out of a deep conviction, what does that change about how we go about trying to live a good, meaningful life? What changes if the goal isn't to find joy, but to cultivate the kind of faith from which it naturally springs?